Good afternoon and welcome to Live Impact News right here on 13 News Now Plus, 1 o'clock p.m. on the dot on January 27th, 2026. It is a Tuesday afternoon, and we have a headline that we want to get to right off the bat. This is a headline that has been developing over the course of the last year, and it is a hearing that is currently happening with the NTSB. It's a public hearing to make clear what factors played the biggest role in the mid-air collision that killed 67 people almost a year ago over the Potomac River near Washington, D.C. An American Airlines jet and an Army Black Hawk helicopter collided in mid-air, and then, a fiery and deadly explosion occurred again over the Potomac River. It's the deadliest plane crash on United States soil since 2001. And since that plane crash happened, there have been a number of questions swirling around the reasons why and the ways this could have been prevented and the ways that it hopefully will be prevented in the future. This hearing is a part of solving those problems and answering those questions. So let's go live out to the NTSB hearing right now.
About ACAS XR. How has ACAS been adapted for the rotor wing aircraft?
ACAS XR is different from previous iterations of ACAS in that instead of just offering vertical maneuvers to aircrew, it offers also horizontal maneuvers, and additionally, the committee that's writing the minimum operational performance standards is looking at having significantly lower inhibit altitudes for XR when compared to XA or XO, for instance.
And you said it's not available at this point, correct?
It's still in development, that's correct.
What are minimum operating performance standards or MOPS?
So minimum operational performance standards, MOPS, those are basically a set of criteria that an organization like RTCA develops to say what a company would need to verify that their product meets those standards in order to get a certified product.
Have those standards been developed yet for ACAS XR?
They are in development currently.
Okay, so my concern is the simulation that we run. What performance standards are used? Is it these ones that they're maybe they're thinking of having, or what do we know? What are the performance standards for the simulation?
So the simulation used performance standards that they are still in draft. There's some ability to modify those. However, in speaking with the committee chair just a week ago, he stated that they intend to have the standards finalized by December 2026, so within less than a year from now.
Okay.
So we believe that it's mature enough technology that we can make recommendations in those areas.
So the simulation software is a best guess at this point of how it's going to be, the standards are going to be?
I wouldn't characterize it as a best guess personally. I think there's still a couple small things that they need to validate before they finalize the standard.
Okay.
I think Captain Stone may be able to offer a little bit more information.
Be quick, I'm past my time.
And I would say that the standards are 95 to 98% complete, so they're much more than just in development.
Okay, and how long have they been developing this for?
A long time.
Long time? Okay, thank you.
Member Edmund.
I went back to this. This was actually an evaluation flight. So we know that there's evaluation going on, and I'm kind of concerned or wanted to figure out maybe this is human factors or actually an expectation bias. But we noted 27 mentions of wind and turbulence, the brief loss of the crew coordination on who was flying, a failed landing, and a pilot-initiated wrong turn, all during this evaluation flight. At what point does an instructor pilot say, we need to knock it off? It's time to end.
Well, this was a proficiency evaluation, you're correct. And so the pilot's being evaluated on their ability to fly the aircraft, manage cockpit resources, navigate, and whatnot. I think as an instructor pilot, doing an evaluation, don't really, you're looking for an unsafe action or situation where you would call knock it off. Otherwise, I think most instructors just continue with the flight.
Do you think instructor pilots are given enough latitude or at least direction on when they should knock it off?
Yes, that's totally their decision.
I know, but are they given enough training in that regard?
I believe so. They're specially selected because they have good judgment abilities.
Do you think that this IP was empowered to end it despite evaluating a senior ranking official?
Absolutely. He was the instructor pilot in command.
In their pre-flight risk assessment, do they take into account how many hours a pilot has recently flown?
Yes, they do.
And how is that weighted?
They use a risk assessment tool called an RCOP, and then it's that information is automatically integrated into the risk assessment tool, and a risk rating is generated. It's based on how many flight hours they have, the recency, and what modes of flight they've flown and whatnot. So it's automatically generated.
And I think we've heard that all the crew members aboard both aircraft were qualified to perform their duties. But is there an attempt or a bias in order to try to know that we've got a deadline to get this done, we need to get it done regardless of what happened?
We did not, the investigation did not reveal anything like that.
Okay. This is just for my awareness too, and it was interesting whenever unfortunately, we do listen to the CVRs to make sure that we're getting the tone and tenor. And I've always heard of the sterile cockpit rule that applies over 10,000 feet for commercial aviation. Can you describe that?
Maybe Captain Stone can. He's a airline pilot.
Yeah, it's below 10,000, usually it's 10,000 feet. Some airlines have it up to 18,000 feet, and it's basically only operationally significant information can be discussed. So you can't have a conversation about where we're going to go eat tonight or anything like that. So it's got to be directly related to the safe operation of that flight.
Does the same thing apply to military or to helicopters?
Not with helicopters, no.
Helicopters
You're
in general?
operating below 10,000 feet almost all the time.
So it's a different risk for a helicopter than it is for a fixed wing airplane.
Different risk.
They're treated differently, I should say.
That's correct. Helicopter operations are typically low altitude. You're always going to be communicating with your crew on the situation aircraft, looking for traffic, navigating, and communicating with each other about what's going on. So yeah, that's always going on in a helicopter.
Okay. And I know we talked a little bit earlier about the bias that these pilots have not been seeing aircraft arriving on 3-3 very often. Did we have a number of ATSAP reports on that? Did we find where this was specifically more defined at night? Do we have any data on that?
I think that's something that we'll be covering in the next panel.
Okay. I'll wait for the next one.
Thank you. This may be for Mr. Hoyt. Hi, Nathan. Welcome to the discussion. All right. So I referenced in my opening statement a 1968 mid-air collision, and again in 69, which was the worst air disaster in Indiana and remains so. We just passed, not a few years ago, the 50th, the mark of the 50 years since that occurred. And I mentioned the board's significant work in 1968 and 69 to hold mid-air collision public hearings in general and issue a number of recommendations, including, again, after 1968, recommending the expeditious development of a collision avoidance system and implementation on all civil aircraft. Also of note, in July of 1969, was the NTSB's first ever recommendation on another collision avoidance technology, positive train control, to prevent train-to-train collisions and to prevent incursions. Is basically a train slamming right into a work zone and hitting people. We issued a recommendation on positive train control, so numerous over the decades, over 50 years, that I could hardly count. It was many, many times, sometimes 6 times a year. For 50 years, we issued that recommendation. In 1969, there was no standard for positive train control. There was no group that got together and agreed on a written document of a standard for positive train control. It didn't even exist. Did not exist. But we recommended it. And guess what? Yes, it took us 50 years to get there. But Congress mandated it. They mandated it because of our recommendation, but in between 1969 and when it was mandated and fully implemented in 2020, over 300 people died and 6,200 people injured, seriously injured. Death after death after death. It wasn't the first time we issued a recommendation where technology did not exist or there was no standard in writing. Let's just review 1968, when seatbelts came into play. We issued our first seatbelt recommendation, now knowing 450,000 lives were saved. Think about the tremendous pushback on seatbelts at that time. Nobody wanted to wear a seatbelt or install them in a car. But we were right out there championing it. 1970, we issued a recommendation to rapidly shut down failed pipelines, now known as automatic and remote control shutoff valves. Didn't exist in 1970, but we investigated 15-something explosions, including one at a daycare that killed so many people. So many people over the years. Excess flow valves is another one, to shut off distribution pipelines before a house exploded. We kept after that one time and again. An excess flow valve didn't even exist at the time. Ground proximity warning systems, 1971. Wind shear detection technology, 1973. Car seats in passenger vehicles, 1983. Runway incursion technology, or ASDX, 1990. Direct pilot alerting, we're still after it, 1990. Automatic emergency braking forward collision warning, 95. Fuel inerting systems, 1996. Electronic stability control, 2002. Advanced speed limiting technology, 2011. Connected vehicle technology, and thank you for Member Graham for championing connected vehicle technology. First recommendation, 2012, didn't exist. Drug and alcohol detection technology, whether it's DADS or driver monitoring, it didn't exist. 2012. If not us, then who? Every single time we have championed technology to push for lives saved. And when we issue a recommendation and FAA decides we can't do it this way, we need to find another one. Mr. Hoyt, is there an option for FAA to say, well, we can't do it this way, but we are going to do it this way?
Yes, if a recipient has another alternative plan or solution for recommendation, they can propose it to us and we'll consider it. If we think it's appropriate, we can propose an acceptable alternate action.
Thank you very much. Member Graham.
Thank you, Chair. I want to talk about technology now, too. I've been a big proponent of technology to help as a backup system out there. TCAS was a big deal when it came out. It has matured over time to be a really good thing, and it has saved my rear end a few times over the years with a resolution advisory. Unfortunately, in this situation, this accident, it it had limitations where it wouldn't work, it wouldn't be effective. I think we've gotten to the bottom of that. So I want to talk a little bit about ACAS and ADSBN going forward here. I think it's important to point out I'm a believer in ADSBN, but I'm only a believer if we do it right and how it's integrated into the cockpit. Just to have it in is worthless, but if we do it right, what would that look like, Captain Stone?
It would require that.
All right, so that was a peek into the NTSB hearing that they are conducting at this time. I guess for full posterity here, the NTSB stands for the National Transportation Safety Board. At the end of this hearing that you were just watching, those board members will vote on the probable cause of the crash and the agency's safety recommendations. Now, these are just recommendations. The NTSB does not have the authority to enforce them. They're not always adopted, but these are recommendations that will be made at the conclusion of this hearing, and then a final report will be released 2 weeks after the hearing that will mark the end of this investigation, which they were hoping to conclude by the first anniversary of the mid-air collision, according to ABC News. This happened on January 29th, 2025. It's January 27th, 2026. So that final report will come out just a little more than a week after that 1 year anniversary. But I know that maybe that could have been difficult to hear at times, and it is a complex investigation they're attempting to explain, but it happened so close to us. It was such a massive tragedy here on the East Coast and in the United States. We want to make sure we spend as much time with that as we can and try to keep things as clear as possible. For the time being, however, we are going to throw to a commercial break. When we come back, we'll have meteorologist Evan Stewart in studio to discuss a very cold forecast. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Live Impact News Studio. As promised before the break, meteorologist Evan Stewart is here to break down our forecast for the week and beyond. Evan, welcome. Thanks for taking the time to hang with us. And is it still cold?
It is. It is still cold
Okay.
out there. As a matter of fact, got down into the teens this morning, actual air temperatures. So the wind chills were even colder than that. We had some, around zero this morning.
Wow.
And it's going to be cold for the next several days. I haven't done it yet. I was going to email the National Weather Service. I don't think we'll set any records for consecutive hours below freezing,
Okay.
just because of some of the other, really cold winters that we've had in the past. But, we're going to probably go, 72 hours where we don't get above freezing. We might nudge above it just a little bit today, currently sitting at 31 degrees.
Oh, we're right there.
Yeah, we're right there. So,
Oh.
I mean, if we tick up to 32, then then we have to kind of start that count,
Yeah.
all over again. And it's not very common to get days where, we stay below freezing or even, below 20 degrees or in the 20s. As a matter of fact, just over the last 10 years, we've had, in 2018, there were 5 days that we stayed below 30, where the afternoon high was in the 20s. And in 2025, 2017, and 2016, 2 days, 1 day only in 2022 and 2019, and 2024, 23, 21, and 2020, no days. Every day we got over 30 degrees. So, it's not unheard of, but it's not all that common where we don't at least hit 30 degrees.
Yeah,
And
really.
we might not hit 30 degrees.
You said 5 days last year?
Last year, we had 2 days.
2 days, okay.
2018 was the most. In the last 10 years, we had 5 days.
Gotcha, okay.
Usually, 1 or 2 days, but some years we didn't have any. As a matter of fact, 4, and then of course this year remains to be seen. So as we take a look at the temperature trends coming up, as far as the highs over the next 10 days, today we're going like 34, 35, I believe, 32 tomorrow. But if we don't hit 32, then we might not hit 32 again until Sunday or Monday. And then even into next Friday, those temperatures are still, 9 degrees below average.
This is a very cold stretch, and we are now officially out of what is typically considered the coldest stretch of the year, right? That ended January 24th, and it's still freezing out there.
That's right. Yes, that's when our normal or average high of 50 degrees comes to an end, and now we start to tick back up. And the one thing about the average highs, when we show the average high, it's not truly an average for that one day. What we do is we take a look at all the highs, for the last 30 years of a climate period. So we just did that in 2020, and we make it a nice smooth line. So you don't have days that are jumping around and
Right.
stuff. So it is what we call a normalized average. In other words, it just is a nice smooth curve. So you don't have the things, the days bouncing around. But, technically maybe our average high on this date is really only 48 or something if you just looked at the pure averages. But,
Right.
we like nice, meteorologists like things in nice clear packages,
That's
we,
right.
we talk about December, January, February, that's winter, period, not the astronomical stuff. So we kind of do that with the averages and numbers too. But,
Yeah.
I think at last check, looking just back at the month, we are only about a degree or two below average for the month because we had so many warm days earlier this month.
I mean, it was 70 degrees, 3 weeks ago maybe? We had that one day where we got up into the 70s. Am I remembering that wrong? Was that 74, 75 just a couple weeks ago? And now we cannot bring ourselves to get over those freezing temperatures.
So we'll probably bump those numbers down, obviously, these last few days of January. And of course, as far as rainfall, we had the rain over this weekend and the weekend before, and we'll probably get rain or something this weekend as well.
Can you go back to the month as a whole?
Yes.
I mean, this is Hampton Roads in a nutshell. If someone ever asks you what's the weather like in Hampton Roads, just show them this.
Right.
I mean, we got 6 straight days where we're over 65 almost every day. And then filling in the bottom of this calendar is going to be 5 straight days where we're right around 32, 33, 31. So that is the roller coaster that we know here in Hampton Roads.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. And, something I always like looking at, when we're here is the ski resorts.
Yeah.
Because now with this cold weather,
I bet these are going to be snowy
Yeah.
here. These are going to be much snowier than we're used to, huh? Look at these winter wonderlands. Naya, you got eyes on one of these, Naya? I know you're still trying to get that first ski trip in.
I know, wintergreen looks so good.
I knew you were going to go wintergreen. Wintergreen looks like an 80s movie
This
right
looks
now.
beautiful.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, last time I was in here, and it's only been a couple of weeks ago, the only snow at Wintergreen was the man-made snow on the
Right.
on the slopes, and now you can see it all up into the mountains there. So this cold weather, they've seen the snow, and now they've got a lot more. And of course, the parking lot's nice and clear.
Yep. Still safe getting in and out, but plenty of powder on which to ski and snowboard up there in Wintergreen. And look at Massanutten. And again, you can see as the elevation increases up in those areas where maybe they don't have the man-made snow, you still see some of that white coating up there.
Right, which we didn't have just a couple of weeks ago. Catalucci, a nice 19 degrees there.
Oh, we just had a wipeout on the
Oh,
left
yeah.
side. He appears to be okay. We did just have a wipeout over there, though. Sorry, go ahead,
Yeah,
Evan.
no, you're fine. I always like watching them too. Let's see, I've got a couple others. Let's see, that aren't on this.
A lot of snowboarders in Catalucci.
Yeah, and that's something you definitely noticed over the years. Is obviously probably last 30 years. A lot more snowboarders up there and
Yeah.
stuff. And there's nothing more discouraging when you're a middle-aged man on your skis, and then comes this 5-year-old on a snowboard
Right.
just zipping around.
That I definitely feel that. I've only been once, and I picked up skiing, and I definitely occasionally would notice someone snowboard by me looking much cooler and faster than I was. But I've heard it's a little harder to do.
That's what I hear.
Yeah.
Let's see.
Maybe that'll be one of our winter time. We'll get the Winter Olympics are coming up. Actually,
That's true. Yeah. in a
We should
few
get a winter
weeks.
sports expert in here, Naya. Talk about the differences between snowboarding and skiing. Talk about a little bit of curling, a little bit of bobsledding. Are you in?
I'm in.
Are you guys going to be watching the Winter Olympics?
Absolutely.
Evan's in. Naya?
Yeah.
Sorry.
No.
Sorry because you're going to be watching so much Winter Olympics that you won't be here, or
Right. Yeah.
okay, gotcha. We'll find some sports for you to get. We'll find some Winter Olympic games for you to get into. The Olympics is different from typical sports watching because all the games are so unique, and it's not like you're sitting next to somebody who just knows everything that's going on. Everyone's trying to figure out what's happening all together.
Right. Curling still.
Curling
It-
still. If you go on 13newsnow.com and type in curling, you'll see a story I did on curling 4 or 5 years ago. That's one of my favorites that you can go check out. But we're still all trying to learn exactly how to score points in the game of curling.
Well, I mean, it looks to me, and maybe I'm wrong, but it looks to me to be very much like shuffleboard.
Mm-hmm.
And, you've got the person there with the little broom. I'm sure it has an official name.
Yep.
You remember the official name?
Oh my gosh. I want to say sweeper, but that
Yeah.
can't be right. That's so on the nose.
Right. So, there's obviously got to be, an official name for that, and they're trying to affect the ice in front of the stone, to get it to stop where it needs to stop. So let me throw up the 7-day forecast real quick. I've got our 1:30 editorial meeting that I've got to jump to.
Okay. He's called the Skip, by the way. But
Oh,
yes,
okay.
go ahead.
The
And if you
Skip.
need to go, Evan, you can totally get out of here. I know we got a little sidetracked with the Winter Olympics. But
So, we are watching this weekend. Tim and I and the rest of the team, we're going to look closely at all the model data. Wouldn't be surprised if we issue our weather impact alert for this weekend, this evening before the news.
Okay.
So we'll look at that latest information. This is a more favorable, storm track, but as we saw with this last storm, it will change. 1 or 2 days out, and we're looking at, this coastal low coming up, and if the European is right, we could be in for a good snow. But again, a shift, 200 miles east-west can make all the difference. If it shifts west, we'll be in the warm air, the warm side of it. If it's 200 miles east, then the precipitation shield's too far away from us, and we won't get much either.
So still monitoring those models. Keep your eyes on 13 News Now, because at some point you may issue that weather impact alert.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we have one going into the newscast tonight.
Okay.
Because there will be some impacts either way. I think, even if the storm's off the coast, we could have tidal impacts like we would normally expect with a nor'easter and windy conditions. So there will be impacts.
Okay, fantastic. Evan, you are the best. I know you had a very quick time frame to join us today. We appreciate you taking a little bit of time. And don't worry, we are going to get Naya excited about the Winter Olympics as they get a little bit closer.
Yeah, we will.
All right, Evan is off to his afternoon meeting. We are off to a break here on Live Impact News, but on the other side of the break, for the first time ever on the afternoon edition of Live Impact News, we will have Derek Lytle on, one of our reporters here at 13 News Now. He just graduated to a brand new schedule. He's very excited about it, and his story today is about potential light rail expansion from Norfolk over into Virginia Beach, Town Center, the oceanfront. It's a topic that it's been a hot one in Hampton Roads for some time. It's back in the headlines. We're going to talk to Derek Lytle about that on the other side of this break. All right, so we're back here after our brief commercial break, and I have been informed by both Nia Campbell and Derek Lytle that this is not his first time on Live Impact News. I think the last time I probably just had so much fun talking to him that I kind of like blacked out. I forgot about it. I don't remember what happened. But for the second time, we're going to have Derek Lytle here on Live Impact News. Derek, I am so sorry. It's not because I didn't enjoy it the first time we had you on here. I'm just so excited to have you back.
Good to be here, man.
Listen, you got your new schedule. We're going to be seeing a lot more of you in the 4 o'clock hour, 5 o'clock hour here on Live Impact News. How does it feel to be kind of off that nighttime schedule and working during the day a little more?
Man, I'm pumped. You miss a little bit more of that breaking news when people kind of acting out at nighttime. But it is weird. You take the dogs out in the morning, and everybody's taking their dogs out in the morning,
right?
Because you got people on a standard kind of work schedule. But
you're back on the regular life schedule.
I need coffee now.
Exactly right. And so today on this particular daytime shift, just tell us a little bit about what your story is and how you kind of got into it and who you talked to.
Yeah, real quick, I wanted to mention, did you see Shaun White jump over those people in Central Park? I just had Olympics on the brain.
I do not know. I saw Shaun White jump over Shane Gillis in a random clip that was served to me. That was in Central Park. That was to get people excited for the Winter Olympics.
Get them hyped up.
Well, Derek, we do have some bad news here on Live Impact News. We have the people's producer, the best in the business, the only reason this show continues to be as decent as it is, Nia Campbell, not excited about the Winter Olympics.
Is she more of a Summer Olympics type? Is that what it is?
No.
No Olympics at all on the
No
calendar.
Olympics whatsoever. Is it because all your attention's already on the World Cup?
Well, during the summer, when is the Olympics?
During the summer, late July, August?
Yeah, it's like every other 2 years they flip-flop.
Every 4 years, Summer Olympics. Winter Olympics are every 4 years, but they're in alternating 2-year stretches, if that makes sense.
It's just never been on my radar. I feel like Love Island is my Olympics.
Love Island is your very well said. Very well said. And Love Island deserves just as much coverage as the Olympic Games. Can we start to get some more
You
more
gonna throw that in the
in-depth.
stream
Yeah,
moving
we'll throw
forward?
that in the stream a little bit.
We'll have to have her play-by-play on it then. 'cause
We'll definitely get a Nia Campbell play-by-play.
That would be a good show.
Absolutely. And we're going to get some T-shirts made. Love Island is my Olympics. Okay. We're going to start merchandising this. We're going to brand things out. And that way that we'll be able to make sure we've got our priorities straight. You are excited for the Winter Olympics. Is there a particular sport that you prefer?
It's the snowboarding. It's half pipe. It's those things. I'm not as big into curling as it sounds like you may be from my hearing you guys' conversation.
Well, curling's just the most fascinating one. It's so foreign to me.
Bobsled, luge, things like that. I think are
bobsled and luge. Bobsled, I feel a kinship with because Cool Runnings was one of my favorite movies growing up.
Okay.
About the Jamaican bobsled team, and I must have watched that 1,000 times in my adolescence. So bobsledding, I've always felt kind of a little bit connected to, whereas curling is just this it just comes out of nowhere once every 4 years. It's so strange looking.
It's almost like they just had a movie on table tennis. I think that's kind
Marty
of a
Supreme
comparison. I haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet either. Marty Supreme is high on the docket
Other
for me.
people like Dana in our newsroom say, "How on earth do you watch a movie about table tennis?" So there's different.
Well,
opinions.
listen, as we know, Derek, it's not just about table tennis; it's about the human condition,
There it
as
is.
all great movies are. Okay, so Marty Supreme coming up for you.
Mm-hmm.
The Winter Olympics coming up for you. Are we going to have some light rail expansion coming up for Hampton Roads?
It's that thing. If you build it, they'll come. I don't know. It's Field of Dreams for you. But
we're staying with the sports movies here. I like
it's
it.
all
We're
on
very
the brain.
thematic here.
It
on
seems
Live
like
Impact.
there's a lot of doubt in people's mind. This was a conversation nearly. Can you believe that's a decade ago, 2016?
It is shocking. It feels like that conversation didn't happen so long ago. That's also the year I started here at 13 News Now. So it's kind of a milestone year for me. It's also the year that LeBron James won the single greatest championship in NBA history.
Debatable.
So a lot that happened in 2016. But the light rail conversation was a lightning rod for, I don't want to say controversy, but it was just a hotly debated topic here in Hampton Roads. And maybe controversial as well, honestly, if we look into it.
You have some people you hear expanding all the way to the Virginia Beach ocean front. For those not familiar, running right now in Norfolk, stopping in Norfolk. This conversation, the vote only failed 58-42 back in 2016. $243 million with VB being responsible for $88 million. That's a lot of dough for people to be concerned about. And, I talked to a council member on this. I talked to the delegate representing the 95th district that is bringing it back to the table. A lot of people are like, why are we bringing this back to the table? We already voted on it. It doesn't need to come back around. It is what it is. But I did talk to both of them. We can run some of that sound from my interviews if we want to just kind of introduce what they had to say.
Okay, let's go to those thoughts.
A decade is a long time ago, right? I believe that the current community members have changed. The council members has changed. I know the members of the House of Delegates have certainly changed. And I think it's time for us to sort of look towards the future.
Just because the citizens voted it down in 2016 doesn't mean it should go away. Everyone would agree that some form of mass transit, whatever it looks like, should be a part of VB Trail. But it just lacked being a part of a bigger plan. It just stopped at Town Center, and so the cost just to stop at Town Center, there was no benefit to that. It needs to be part of a larger plan.
Okay, so two representatives that you spoke to here today, and the first thing I want to stick on is that they bring up the point of, look, it's been 10 years. There's no reason not to bring this up again. Society continues to change and move forward, and the needs of the people and communities all across Hampton Roads change with that society that is growing and changing. And so just because an initiative didn't work 10 years ago doesn't mean you don't bring it up again.
I mean, I don't think there's any loss of value to bring up the conversation again. Is what they're trying to get to. 10 years, that amount of time, they've seen a lot of younger people move to the area and wanting to push for an expansion. You got people that work at jobs over in Virginia Beach, but also in Norfolk. And so having any type of mass transit, I feel like they're pushing forward is something to go to. The council member brought up that Virginia Beach is already pushing forward a trail project to have a paved biking trail that reaches the exact same stretch. So he kind of brought to the table, why not look into an option that also brings transit along that same route? It's really interesting. I mean, 58-42, you look at that vote, it's not a big separation. It's not like 90% of people said absolutely not. We don't want this.
Yeah.
it's so far out. You know, anytime you're talking about railroads, this railroad, that, light rail, it's not something that you go and you start digging up dirt tomorrow, and you and me go take shovels and we're getting started with the expansion. You know, so it's definitely a long time away.
And I think that in Hampton Roads, there's a sense maybe, and I would venture to say that most people, if you ask them this question, would feel this way about their city, but there's a sense maybe that there's a lot of construction going on a lot of the time in Virginia Beach and in Norfolk. Specifically, we've had some long-lasting highway projects that maybe people will kind of focus on and things like that. Was any of that brought up by the elected officials when you spoke to them?
Yeah, you know, I did a story that we retouched on Shore Drive construction.
Construction,
people getting stuck in traffic on the Lesnar Bridge for 45 minutes out of their day. You know, so people already have a right in their minds to complain about construction. Anytime you add a whole light rail going through the middle of two cities, it's not something that's gonna, you know, they're just going to throw down and not inconvenience anybody's day.
Right, and we're obviously in an instant gratification society as well, and a project like this would probably have an end date that is very, very far away.
The council member did bring up, he's like, what if light rail's already obsolete, though? He also wanted to look at future technology, which pokes my interest of, really, we're already to the point where our light rail systems are obsolete. I didn't even think about that.
When he said future technology, did he mean some other form of mass transit?
Mass transit.
Interesting.
Yeah,
okay.
Which pokes my interest of what's out there already. You know, I haven't done that deep dive yet.
Okay, that's still to come. Maybe we'll have you back on as you explore this.
The high-tech submarines, or I don't know what he's talking about there.
Now, in terms of, those are maybe some of the things that were brought up in terms of hesitancy. Any other reasons that they brought up in terms of why maybe this wouldn't happen or why this wouldn't go forward?
Everything's about dollar signs, right? I mean, it's just it's got to be feasible. And when anytime you bring about taxpayer dollars, things like that in a conversation, look at the VB Trail. That project's already moving forward just for a paved trail. And Councilmember Remick tells me that 2 out of 5 of the legs of that project are funded. That's not even, 50% of the way funded for that. So even to get the paved trail that we're already pushing for, that'll get people out and about on their bikes, things like that, that is still, 5, almost maybe even 10 more years off. So to try and think about funding a heavy-duty project like the rail system, that on top of that, it can cause some headaches, I feel like, and but it might bring a lot of jobs to the area. You think
that's the next way that I want to go with this, and you're already on our way there. Let's talk about some reasons why this could be beneficial to the community.
Well, like I said, you got people working in both cities. You got people needing transportation. Look at how backed up I get on 264 every day coming here and going.
And you
back.
Live at the oceanfront.
At the oceanfront,
right.
And there was that day we had our training last week where there was 2 pileups on the same time, and it took nearly an hour and 45 minutes to get into work. So. I think one of the benefits the delegate had mentioned, Askew, he says that, he would take it, people would take it instead of taking their car to work that day. That frees up, our highway systems and maybe we have less car accidents, things like that. But
just spitballing anecdotally here, as you talk about people who already live in those 2 cities and how much easier it would make their transit, you also may have people who would like to explore job opportunities in Virginia Beach that live in Norfolk or vice versa, hesitant to do so. Maybe that becomes more of an option.
Well, it's a cheaper commute, but also you look at new things like the Dome and things we're advertising to bring tax dollars to a city. You need people to work at those different venues and hotels and restaurants, and people rely on getting to and from Norfolk, I feel like, to Virginia Beach or vice versa on a daily basis. So freeing up a more affordable way for people to, there's people that don't own cars. Well, you're going to Uber each way. I mean, I've heard some other stories like that. So
you mentioned that we talk about all these professional reasons. You mentioned the Dome. We've got the Scope here in Norfolk. If you want to go see a show at the Dome and you're in Norfolk, maybe you're more enticed to do so if there is an efficient and affordable transportation method that's not a $30 or $40 Uber where you have to wait for it to get there and all that kind of stuff. No shade to Uber, which is obviously a helpful service, but
even the other way, if I want to hop on there and go see a Tides game,
and go see a Tides game or an Admirals game,
throw the baseball jersey on and take the train. I think there's a lot of dollars that could be recouped from this, but again,
and if you like to engage in the nightlife, it's a much safer way to get home than driving a vehicle.
Oh yeah,
and then there's the environmental implications as well.
There's a lot of positives, but there's also a lot of tie-ups on how do we actually make this happen.
How do we make it happen?
When it was brought up to the table last time, had said a lot of people didn't like that it just went to town center, but then it's like, well, how feasible is it to actually get it to the oceanfront without costing $1 billion to make that happen? So it's a seesaw kind of table game of how is it possible, and I think that's why it's a 2-year study to even look into it. So I feel like that's just why he wants to bring the study to the table. And a lot of people still are like, yeah, let's pump the brakes on it.
And in terms of the 2-year study, is that something that is officially going to happen, or that has been floated as an idea that could happen?
Sure. So it's in subcommittee right now. Okay. It's going to be heard this week. It's got to go to the floor after that. There's a couple steps it has to go through before it's even brought forward. If it does happen, then our state rail agency would then start to look at, hey, how is this possible? What people do we need doing what, and where do we take it, and what the benefits are? So that's the 2-year period. So we're not even to the start of the study yet. So it's a lot that goes into it. But he had mentioned that as a delegate, like, you bring 100 bills a year up, and a handful of them move forward. But he seemed pretty confident that this is one that he wanted to advocate and fight for. He said it got tied up a little bit because of the snowstorm that we were doing coverage on, so I think the whole world stopped a second.
We certainly had a major pause here for that little portion of Saturday night where the snow really did start falling. Now, in terms of the light rail as it exists currently in Norfolk, any information that you were able to gather about how effective and useful that has been?
Yeah, I don't know. It's a hit or miss. The council member said when it first opened up, people were jumping on it left and right. And, even in my time walking down Granby Street when I first moved here and was kind of staying in a hotel waiting for, my apartment to be ready, I saw people use it, on a pretty good basis when you had Tides games going on. I even used it my third day in town to get to the Tides game, and I had no problems with it. But I feel like as the years have gone on, as it's existed, people kind of, I don't want to say take it for granted, but it's just there. Right. I saw a video I was watching earlier today. The first day it opened, you couldn't find a seat or standing room only in the train cars. But with anything, excitement builds, right? And you got to be the first to check something out.
Right. That's right.
So, I think you use it if it definitely fits into your daily life. But besides that, it's like,
Right. And like you said, taking it for granted. We live in a car-driven culture. It's a difficult thing to kind of change over into that more public transit-driven city or area. So all things that are in development, as you said. Is there anything else we need to know about this situation?
No, just, if you're living in either city and you're looking at it, keep an eye on it. I'd also like to look at the expansion across all of Virginia, see where we're at with our train systems. It brings along that question of what is that new technology we can dive into, in a world of electric cars and all the crazy stuff that we see nowadays. I'm sure there's technology behind the scenes that we don't talk about. So
I'm excited for this to be a story that maybe you kind of are able to latch onto, and as it develops, you're able to kind of make it something that you cover on a regular basis. Because like we said, it's now come up for the second time in a decade, and the first time it came up, it was a major point of conversation. And as you also noted, even if it doesn't result in maybe exactly what's being discussed right now, if we can have an expansion of mass transit in some sort of meaningful way, then maybe it takes a different path there, but there could still be growth here. So hopefully more updates to come. Nia, do you have any questions for Derek?
No questions.
No questions.
Y'all hit everything.
We covered everything. There
Okay, so then we'll have to end it with this. We got a lot of time still. Seahawks, Pats, who do you like?
Oh, Lord. So I attended the Seahawks Patriots back when Malcolm Butler made the interception.
You're kidding.
And Katy Perry did the halftime show
with the giant lion and the shark that went rogue.
The shark that went rogue.
You were at that game.
I think I was at the best Super Bowl you could ever be at.
For my money, I mean, obviously the Super Bowl the 2 Super Bowls where my Eagles have won, even the one that they lost, they stand strong in my mind.
Yeah.
But from a pure competitive, just watching without being attached to it, 2014 is unbelievable.
Did you see this though on X? The NFL had posted back when the season started a graphic of all players from all teams fighting to get to Levi Stadium to get to the Super Bowl. And who's standing at the front of
know.
that graphic?
I know.
It is Drake May and Sam Darnold standing right before the
Eerie.
Super Bowl.
Very
entrance.
strange.
And you got a lot of people saying that this was scripted.
The NFL is not going to defeat the scripted
You know, and I
allegations
think all
anytime soon.
That all things came together. The Seahawks have been my pick. I'm a Niners fan, and the Seahawks were my pick to win the Super Bowl since the
Okay.
middle of the season. So, as much as that hurts me and we got blown out, at least we took the Eagles off the table, and Shane
All right,
had to
all
wear
right.
a Niners
First of all, we were
jersey.
having a nice time. We're having a nice time in here, okay? We're having a really enjoyable conversation. I know that you were aggrieved by Shane.
If I can give heck to Shane, I can give it to you, too.
Shane Fordham, our sports guy, and myself, our resident Eagles fan. We actually have a bunch of Eagles fans here at the station, but the two of us were maybe battling a little bit with Derek Lytle because we played the 49ers in the first round, and you guys took it to us.
Great game, though.
Yeah.
For some of us.
Yeah, I wouldn't call it. I don't know about that. Naya, I am sending you the graphic that Derek is talking about if you want to pull it up in the next couple of seconds here. And we know how much work you have to do, Derek. We won't keep you for too much longer. All right, so you're at that game. What was your vantage point of the Malcolm Butler interception?
So I was actually across. So it happened on the other side of the field, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I was in an all-Pats section. Growing up in the Bay Area, Tom Brady was a San Mateo kid. So
Right.
I latched on to Brady from, day one watching football.
Right.
And, with him, Randy Moss, all the different eras of Tom Brady, it was pretty, even if you hate the Patriots, it was pretty cool to celebrate. But I was in that Patriots section way across. I was like, 12 years old? I don't know how old I was, but I was young,
Yeah.
And so I didn't really understand after the game why there was people trying to flip cars in the parking lot and all that. But just to see an interception like that, as a kid growing up wanting to play professional baseball, it was a fun time to be at.
I mean, I think for our lifetime, that and the helmet catch by David Tyree are the two biggest plays in the history of the Super Bowl for me.
Catch is crazy.
For my money. And I might even take the pick over the helmet catch because it was the one play I've ever
How
seen.
do you not run the ball with Marshawn Lynch?
I feel you. And if you're going to throw the ball, roll him out. Do not throw a slant over the middle where there's all that traffic and all those defenders. Crazy. Can we pull this graphic up, Nia? I see that you have it here. Okay, so as you can
There
see,
it is.
that's Saquon Barkley right there. I don't know if you guys know. He
if you
had
can
the greatest
zoom in at
season in the
all.
history of running backs
But
last year.
if you pinch the graphic and zoom in, you can see the two players standing all the way towards the Super Bowl
There's a
trophy.
14 there and a 10
That
right
is
up at
Drake
the front,
May and
Nia.
Sam Darnold, who are both quarterbacking in the Super Bowl. So it's not like the NFL wasted our time for 4 months and already knew who was going to be there,
Right.
but kind of a little trippy.
Though I will point out, before we go all the way into the allegations of a script, you also have Malik Neighbors.
You have a bunch of
Baker
Jets and
Mayfield
Giants
standing
I know,
up there.
but it's just still a little eerie
right.
that the two happen to
is.
be the closest to the trophy. I think I saw that and I was like, oh.
No, it definitely is. And look at our guys, Barkley and Purdy, right here.
Who are we looking at that's close to the trophy?
The number 10 and 14 all the way
These
towards
two
the
guys
front
right
happen to be the two that are playing for the Super Bowl.
So this came
next
out
weekend.
before the season started, Nia.
So people are trying to say that
And the
this
two
is
that are
all,
closest,
this is all rigged, and they knew exactly who was going.
And is he standing the furthest because they lost?
They lost to the Niners. Is that
Well,
what-
okay, first of all, Nia, you're really walking me down a losing path here. That's Saquon Barkley. In theory, they put the biggest guys who they thought would go the furthest kind of here in the forefront,
And
right?
Mahomes and Burrow didn't
Barkley,
even make
Purdy,
the
Mahomes,
playoffs,
Burrow,
yeah.
Allen, and Jackson, all right there. But what it ended up being is the guys who maybe they considered less significant when they made the graphic are the ones who
going.
actually made it to
Yeah.
the bowl.
Gotcha.
Yeah. What do you think, Nia?
This is nice.
You like this
Shout out
graphic?
to the
Do they have
graphics team.
conspiracy on Love Island? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
No, I mean no scripted conspiracies.
No scripted.
Not
oh,
yet.
come on, some of that's got to be scripted.
I feel like the
You
newer
got some
seasons.
influencers getting
Yeah.
some fame on there. I mean,
That's the newer seasons. The older seasons are a lot more natural.
Natural. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. We're pro Love Island, here on the on Live Impact News, and I for one I would like to see the Pats get it. I do like Drake May and Mike Vrabel, but I think the Seahawks
Are you not just
are the
there for
better
the
team
commercials though too?
I mean, I'm excited for the commercials. I'm excited for Bad Bunny. I love the Super Bowl just in general.
Yeah.
But the Seahawks remind me of us last year. They remind me a little bit of the Eagles, where they just don't have any weaknesses top to bottom.
They're dominant. In
I mean,
every
they're just
category.
good, and they got Pro Bowl caliber players at every single level of both sides of the ball. So I just think that they might be too deep in that way, but we're going to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
I said, our dogs aren't in the race, so I just want to see a good game.
Yes.
Great commercials.
Give us a good competition.
All
I'm
right.
glad that we're not going to end up watching Jared Stidham. Bless his heart, he gave his all.
That game
but
was crazy with the snow that was coming down
I
in
know.
Denver.
I know.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else we need to know from you, Derek?
No, I got to go see if I can hop on one of the trains myself and
Okay.
see how it's working.
Derek
So,
Lytle's second appearance here on Live Impact News, but it certainly will not be his last,
There you
and
go.
hopefully more to come in terms of a potentially very big project here in Norfolk, Virginia Beach, and Hampton Roads as a whole. But again, one that, as Derek said, 2 years of a study. It's what's being proposed here. So there's a long time before we actually know if any of this is feasible. What we do know is feasible is a little commercial break here on Live Impact News. We'll dive back into some of our big headlines of the day when we return right here on 13 News Now Plus. All right, back in here in Live Impact News. No major live events happening right now. Even the NTSB committee hearing appears to be in some sort of break or recess. So with that in mind, we're going to go to a press conference that happened earlier today. This is New York City Mayor Zohran Mamdani making an announcement. This was a few hours before we started here on Live Impact News. Let's see what he has to announce that happened a little earlier today.
Good morning, everyone. Before we begin, I wanted to first give an update on the life-threatening cold that this city has been enduring for days. Yesterday, I shared that the city has placed 170 homeless New Yorkers off the streets and into transitional housing like shelters, safe havens, and stabilized beds. I can also share today that since January 19th, the city has made nearly 500 of those placements. But at least 10 New Yorkers have tragically lost their lives after being found outdoors. We don't yet know whether every case will be ruled hypothermia, but we need every New Yorker to be on alert, looking out for their neighbors. The city remains in code blue, which means that we are intensifying outreach, that we are conducting round-the-clock checks, and have loosened traditional shelter intake procedures to accommodate as many New Yorkers as possible. 311 calls are being rerouted to 911, so help gets there faster. And we are immensely grateful for the 911 operators who serve as the connective tissue of our emergency operations. But Code Blue alone is not enough in a cold this severe, this rare. To remind New Yorkers, this is the coldest weather conditions that we have experienced in this city for 8 years. And that is why we are executing new additional emergency protocol to enhance our efforts. We are sending out requests to send staff out every few hours to canvass nearby blocks and engage anyone who needs assistance. This would be from our shelter partners, as well as asking faith-based organizations to assist in some of those outreach efforts. We are also partnering with advocates and volunteers like Street Homeless Advocacy Project, SHAP, to conduct extra shifts this week in high-need areas. We have also asked hospitals to limit overnight discharges to ensure that people who have nowhere to go are kept indoors. We have opened up 10 new warming shelters since Friday. Last night, we opened an additional 7 H&H health centers across all 5 boroughs. Additionally, above the existing warming buses that we have already put into operation, we have added 10 new warming buses at key locations across the city. We are also expanding overnight outreach from city workers with paid overtime so that our city can continue to get homeless New Yorkers inside. And we are expanding the hours of 8 SHOW vans to make sure we can bring people indoors during late and early hours, including using their vans for transport and for temporary shelter. We are working with the state, finally, to redirect mental health teams to focus on life-saving street and subway outreach. And for any additional information on the location of these new warming centers or on the resources that I have mentioned, please do call 311. When the cold is this deadly, we need to meet the moment and leave no stone unturned. That is why the annual Hope Count has also been postponed during this current emergency. Outreach workers should be focused on bringing New Yorkers inside, not on data collection. Here is the bottom line, New York City. Extreme weather is not a personal failure, but it is a public responsibility. If we have the resources to act, we have the obligation to act. And we are mobilizing every resource at our disposal to ensure that New Yorkers are brought indoors during this potentially lethal weather event. We will also make sure we remain upfront and transparent with our city, just as we have over the past week. Please stay indoors when you are able to, stay inside, and stay warm. Now, for today's announcement. Over the past 27 days, City Hall has sought to govern in a way that mirrors the way the people of the city live their lives, with a hunger to innovate and tackle every problem that lies in our path, and by putting in the work. I am proud of the work that we have done over these first 3.5 weeks. And today, we are together to announce the next batch of appointments to our city government, 3 New Yorkers who will help us deepen that very work. First, I am delighted to announce that Sharon Goodwin will serve as the Commissioner of the Department of Probation. I can hardly think of anyone more prepared to assume this responsibility or more experienced in the important work that the DOP leads each day. Sharon has dedicated 37 years of service to the DOP. She began as an intern in 1986 and rose to serve as Deputy Commissioner for Adult Operations before retiring in 2024. Along the way, she served as a probation officer, a court liaison officer, a trainer, the Queens County Adult Operations Branch Chief, and an assistant commissioner for both Bronx County Adult Operations and citywide community engagement. She has worked in all 5 boroughs, a badge of honor that few in this city wear. And I want New Yorkers like Sharon, who have a proven record of achievement and a deep passion for service, to stand at the front of this administration. I am grateful to her for returning to public service from retirement, and I'm very much looking forward to working with her to make the DOP a force for justice and lasting change in New Yorkers' lives. Next, I am very excited to announce that Yume Kitase will serve as the Commissioner of the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. DCAS is one of the most quietly influential parts of city government, a department with the remit of ensuring that government works well and that agencies across our city can function at their full potential. As commissioner, Yume will oversee the work of recruiting and training city employees, the greenest municipal fleet in the nation, 55 public buildings, and lowering our city's carbon emissions. Yume is the perfect person to lead DCAS. Not only is she a City Hall veteran, having previously served as the Chief of Staff to the First Deputy Mayor and the Deputy Mayor for Operations, she has also worked across countless levels of city government. Like many New Yorkers, Yume contains multitudes. She is also an accomplished novelist. And while this brings me no pleasure to announce, Yume has achieved something I never could. She was successfully admitted to Stuyvesant High School. I am also thrilled to name Lisa Garcia as our Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Protection. In that role, I will turn to Lisa to lead some of the most important work that City Hall does on behalf of New Yorkers, protecting them each day from pollution, leading stormwater management, overseeing our wastewater collection efforts, and managing our city's water supply. Every day, New Yorkers drink more than 1 billion gallons of drinking water, what we rely on to survive, to go about our days, to lead healthy lives. The person responsible for stewarding that supply must be someone with the experience needed to meet the seriousness of this role. Lisa is that leader, with a long record of pursuing environmental justice and protecting public health. Most recently, she was appointed by President Biden to serve as the administrator of EPA's Region 2, which includes New York, where she managed a staff of over 1,000, oversaw $1 billion in funding, and led initiatives that lowered pollution and improved air and water quality. Each of these New Yorkers shares a common commitment to service, a desire to place this city and its needs before their own, and a real ambition to deepen what New Yorkers expect from their government. I am grateful to them for joining our administration and very much look forward to working together with them to delivering a new era for New York. Thank you very much. And now, Commissioner Goodwin.
All right, so new officials being appointed by Zohran Mamdani in New York City as he begins his term as mayor, still in that first official month. And as you can see, bringing on new people to work for the people of New York City. Specifically talking about DCAS, I do believe, the Department of Citywide Administrative Services. Making city government work for all New Yorkers, actually, is the tagline from nyc.gov here. Now, you also heard at the very beginning of that statement him talking about some of the provisions they were taking to try and protect citizens in the midst of the winter weather that we are experiencing. Snow, cold temperatures, not isolated to Hampton Roads, obviously being experienced up in the Northeast as well, and Zohran Mamdani putting a specific focus on helping those who are experiencing homelessness in these very, very cold and frigid times. So touched on the weather there, and then began talking about new administrators working in the New York City government. So we wanted to touch in really quick, listen to the announcement. Zohran Mamdani is obviously a local political figure, but he's one that has grabbed national headlines throughout his campaign and into his mayorship. He's also someone who met with Donald Trump not too long ago. Met with Donald Trump at the White House, an interesting meeting. Donald Trump emerged from that meeting with positive things to say about Zohran Mamdani. Mamdani, of course, a democratic socialist, which is a very different ideology from what President Trump has expressed as his own during his time as president, and yet their meeting seemed to go well. Now let's stay on President Trump for a little bit here. Trump giving comments earlier today. He's headed to Iowa today, but he made comments, well, it looks like while in the process of leaving Washington, D.C., based on what we could see from this visual. Of course, we heard from White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt yesterday, where she talked at length about the shooting and killing of Alex Preddy in Minneapolis, a United States citizen, over the weekend. And the comments that came out immediately following Preddy's death from Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem and others. Stephen Miller, a part of Trump's cabinet, works closely with the president. Their comments looked to paint Alex Preddy as a domestic terrorist, or describe Alex Preddy as a domestic terrorist, and to describe his actions at that particular protest or on that particular day as potentially violent, right? Those were the statements that they made very, very soon after the shooting had happened. Local officials, of course, disputed those accounts from federal officials, and many of us here in the United States, I'm sure many watching, also saw the video in which people were able to make their own judgments. Yesterday, Caroline Leavitt was asked at length about some of the comments that were made by members of the Trump administration. She repeatedly answered questions yesterday with an eye towards letting the investigation play out. It was not something where she necessarily relayed words from Trump that were similar to some of the ones that came out from other members of the administration over the weekend, if that makes sense. I hope I'm describing this in the right way. She leaned on the investigation that needs to play out before making any sorts of comments about Alex Preddy in that press conference, at least in terms of the pieces of the press conference that I'm remembering clearly. Now, this also was a situation where she did once again go to the Democratic officials in Minnesota, the governor, mayor of Minneapolis, and she did lay blame at their feet for the unrest that was happening in the city. That was a part of her messaging. However, President Trump released social media posts indicating that he spoke to Governor Tim Walz, saying that they were on the same wavelength. We also have Mayor Jacob Frey from Minneapolis scheduled to meet with Tom Homan today. Tom Homan has been sent to Minneapolis to take over some of the immigration operations in Minnesota. That means that Customs and Border Protection Commander at Large Greg Bovino is returning to California. So what appears to be a change in leadership of the immigration operations in Minnesota in the wake of the death of Alex Preddy. Now, our plan was to go to President Donald Trump and his comments here. However, the NTSB hearing appears to have reached a portion where there is a press conference being given directly into the microphones to the cameras. It may be more easily digestible than what we heard earlier. I know this is a bit of a sharp turn. We will get to President Trump, but I don't want to miss these comments on that accident that happened with an American Airlines flight in a Black Hawk helicopter. Let's go live out to the NTSB hearing now, see what we're getting at this particular moment.
Of equipment and simulations that we've gone through over months, and now we're pleased that we're at the point where we can release our findings, our probable cause, and our safety recommendations, which we'll get into this afternoon. I will tell you, though not public yet, the draft report is well over 500 pages. I can't remember the last NTSB report that was that extensive, but also in addition to that, our evidence is quite extensive, exceeding 19,000 pages in our public docket. So with that, we still have an afternoon where we're going to get into some additional issues and then get into the findings, probable cause, and safety recommendations. But I'll take a few questions. Chris, you were the first to raise your hand. I will ask if you can state your name and your affiliation. If you could keep it to one question, largely because I need another coffee. But also, if we need to do more than one round, that's okay. Go ahead.
Chris Van Cleve from CBS News. There's very clear frustration from the board, it sounds like, when it comes to the FAA's role in all of this. Should the FAA have known there was a problem? Should something have been done?
The question is, should the FAA have known there was a problem, and should something have been done? Absolutely. The data was there. The data was in their own systems. It was the NTSB working with them to determine that there were 15,214 close proximity events, 85 of which were serious, over a number of years. That's just the data. Why collect data if you're not going to analyze it? Then they were supposed to conduct annual reviews of helicopter routes to consider, are they still safe? Is there utility to keeping them? Should they change? We couldn't find any evidence of annual reviews, nor could FAA tell us who did them. That is astounding to me. It's one, I believe, failure after another. But we can talk about the pilots, we can talk about air traffic controllers, we can talk about traffic. what we need to really talk about is a tower and tower personnel who were repeatedly saying, we have a safety problem here. We have a hot spot at the end of runway 33 and we need to do something about it. We have helicopter routes where we have unsafe practices right now. We need to do something. How many times do tower personnel, who, by the way, put their own helicopter working group together and kept submitting one recommendation after another? We need help, we need help, we need help. Apparently falling on deaf ears. So I will also get oh, she sounds angry. We should be angry because for years no one listened. This was preventable. This was 100% preventable. Frankly, having a helicopter route crossing runway 33 with only 75 feet that means 75 feet of vertical separation. What that means is 75 feet at best separating a helicopter and civilian aircraft. Nowhere in the airspace is that okay. Nowhere. This shouldn't have existed. Tom, you were the second person.
Madam Chair, Tom Costello with NBC News. Are you concerned that there may be other hotspots right now that the FAA is not paying attention to?
Question is, are there other hotspots? And am I concerned that the FAA is not paying attention to those other hotspots? The answer to that is yes. The FAA did a evaluation of the national airspace, I believe, as a result of Senator Cruz and Senator Cantwell asking for that evaluation. I'm not sure that I'm not comfortable with it. I keep hearing about other areas in the airspace where they're concerned. Burbank is one where commercial airlines have called me to say the next midair is going to be at Burbank. And nobody at FAA is paying attention to us. So whether it is involving helicopters or not, people are raising red flags. And why aren't people listening? The FAA has to ensure safety. That is their job. Yes.
Will Guys Bond at the Air Current. So I know we have yet to see the text of the recommendation this afternoon. I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about how you plan to sort of address some of the cultural issues that the board has displayed here. I know we talked about like specific things with respect to equipage or whatnot, but how do you address some of these big cultural issues that prevented, say, controllers' recommendations from being elevated or from Army pilots really understanding some of the risks of the airspace they were flying?
The question is, how do you change culture, essentially? And are you just referring to FAA or also Army?
Everyone.
I mean, culture is the hardest to change in any organization. I can tell you this much. I knew there was a safety culture problem when we had a hearing on the door plug. We had a hearing and I asked a question, do you have a good safety culture? I asked Boeing, they said, we could do better. I asked Spirit, we could do better. I asked FAA, they said, our safety culture is great. My response was, the individual organization that says they have a great safety culture is the problem. Because I'm the NTSB chair. We are the safety organization. But safety culture, having a good safety culture is not a destiny. It is a continual journey. It is a continual improvement process. So if you look at my own agency, frankly, I always think there's room for improvement. Always. But changing culture is so hard. So I have to say I want to work with FAA. I want to work with the leadership at FAA. I know the board wants to work with the leadership at FAA in partnership to figure out what we can do to help improve safety culture. We have heard from so many individuals who won't even put their name on anything, don't want to be interviewed formally because they are afraid of retaliation. That's terrible, because what happens then, people won't speak up when there's a safety issue. I know that this is on Administrator Bedford's, top of his mind, and the secretary, we've talked about it. But we've got to figure out a way to improve safety culture.
So is the FAA falling down on safety?
That is two questions in one. I will come back to that after I call on these two, Pete and then Josh. I knew it was Josh. I just needed to make sure. Yeah, I just was making. Yeah, okay. Pete.
Chair, I'm going to on team with CNN. There was a lot of talk today about ADS-B. Would ADS-B have played a factor in preventing this crash, and can it prevent future crashes like this?
Absolutely, ADS-B would have helped prevent this crash. We did simulations in Flight 5342. The crew in this accident from TCAS got a traffic alert at 19 seconds before collision. You know what a pilot is doing when you get a traffic alert? You're looking around going, well, where is it? Not visible in this situation. They would have, with ADS-B in, gotten an alert at 59 seconds before the collision and been able to take measures to avert it. For the helicopter crew, 48 seconds. They didn't even know. It is clear from the CVR they didn't even know it was on the left.
Should more airlines equip with ADS-B?
Should more airlines equip with ADS-B? Absolutely, all of them. And we're not just talking airlines. ADS-B in, there's already ADS-B out. ADS-B in, which is receiving information about aircraft that's in the airspace, should be on Part 121 commercial airlines. You got passengers, you want to see what's there. It should be on Part 135 operations, and it should be on 91 general aviation. It should be throughout the airspace as required. Everywhere there's ADS-B out, there should be ADS-B in.
So what's your message to special interests who push back against this? Sorry.
Wow, that's three, and I really limited. Okay.
But really, I think it's an important question because, it seems that there are a lot of people who don't want this for one reason or another.
Then I'd say the question is, there are a lot of people who don't want this for one reason or another. I'd say, are you for safety? You want lives lost? Then don't do it. But if you want lives saved, implement it. We've been after this for years, since 1968, frankly, and going back. I've got Josh, then I'll go back to your second question.
And
Josh.
then we do one more.
Oh, no, we can't. I wasn't real good at, just give me a peanut butter sandwich.
Josh Reiniger, MS. The Route 4 is over. The conflict with helicopters and commercial air traffic at DCA is hopefully passed to but your investigation has revealed tremendous issues with DCA as it is. The structure of the airport has been in place since the 40s, has drastically outmoded its chaos to this day. Does this give you any second thought at your home airport about the safety at DCA and what is going to take to make it a safe?
Well, I certainly think about how can we make it safer. That's why we're here. It is my home airport, and it's where I fly out of and choose to fly out of, my whole family. Aviation is safe in general. But these are complex systems where there are safety gaps. And when you have certain conditions, certain systemic vulnerabilities that allow for error, you have to address those conditions. I will, though, take a little bit of issue on, this isn't an issue at DCA. If you look at the national airspace evaluation that FAA did at all the other places for helicopter routes, they did not evaluate the other helicopter routes at DCA. They only looked at 4, and we're going to have something to say about that coming up.
Have you looked at other routes around it?
That is not for us to do. FAA needs to do that. Geez, I don't even know. Well, you had your hand up before.
appreciate
Then I'll
it.
go to Dave, and then we'll go over here.
Chairwoman, appreciate your time. Ben Dennis with DC News Now. Do you have any evidence that one person or several people were purposefully negligent leading up to this crash? And if not, and if it was a period of systemic issues, how can the FAA actually be held responsible?
On negligence, I mean, if we felt there was any sort of negligence, there would be probably some criminal component to that, and we'd have to refer that to the authorities. So we don't have any evidence of just plain out negligence. With accountability, I mean, that's why we issue recommendations, and we're going to push hard to pursue implementation of those recommendations. It isn't that we ensure a safe airspace until our recommendations are implemented. Right now, we have 300 recommendations that have not been implemented on aviation safety, which were issued after people died. And those need to be implemented to save lives. Dave?
Real quick, you mentioned in one of the presentations that the FAA rejected a recommendation to move or get rid of Route 4 after this 2013 near miss. You also referenced the failure to do the alcohol testing after these incidents, a litany of other issues. And you've dealt with the FAA a number of times. You referenced Holly Trottenberg and Mike Whitaker's letters saying we're not going to do the ADSB recommendations. What do you think the cultural problem is at the FAA? Is it just the agency thinks it knows better, or doesn't? All the time you spend on the FAA, what's the problem?
The question is, what is the cultural problem at the FAA? What is the problem with them taking these recommendations seriously? I can't answer that. I wish I could. I don't know. But they definitely need some serious reform. Yes.
I'm Clement Cherry with Clinical Transportation Team. I wanted to ask about the Rotor Act, which relates to ADS-B technologies. It passed by unanimous consent out of the Senate last month, but it hasn't been forwarded in the House at all. Have you talked to House leaders about the bill since then?
So on the Rotor Act, I've been very focused on this investigation. It's a lot to read, 19,000 pages. I read it all over again right before we do a final report, and it's a lot to prepare for a board meeting. So I've been very focused on this right now, but appreciate the leadership certainly of the Senate in getting that out. And I do intend certainly to talk to others, on the House and Senate.
Two more. Is the FAA falling down on safety?
Is the FAA falling down on safety? I would say that they did fall down on safety. I believe that this Secretary Duffy, and Administrator Bedford are committed to safety. I've had numerous conversations with them about improving safety, not just in our airspace, but in other modes of transportation. I believe they are committed to safety. This did not happen on their watch, and I'll hold them to that commitment.
Next one.
I had a previous FAA chief say to me that the airlines were their customers, that the FAA was treating airlines like their customers. They had to be responsive to customers. That's been a number of years ago. Is there a mentality within the FAA that airlines are to be served as opposed to holding them accountable?
Is there a mentality in FAA on that airlines should be served as customers rather than holding them accountable and ensuring safety? I don't know that. I'm sure I've heard things over the years, the same sorts of things that you mentioned, but I don't know that for a fact.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. I'll step in your shot. I'm really sorry. I was trying not to, but I know when.
All right, we wanted to break in there to listen to Jennifer Homendy give her comments. Earlier, when we spent time with that particular press conference, we were not really able to totally make out. We could hear a little bit, but the audio wasn't great. We hopped in right in the middle of the hearing, so good to get a recap from her. She is the NTSB chairwoman, which, again, the National Transportation Safety Board, and they will make their recommendations at the conclusion of this hearing. Now, we told you we were going to listen in on President Donald Trump. We touched on some of the updates coming out of Minneapolis following the death of Alex Preddy after being shot by a border agent on Saturday. We are going to get to that. First, we want to take a quick commercial break. We'll be right back. We'll hear from President Trump. We'll also hear comment from House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries. That's coming up right after this break. Okay, welcome back. Thanks for hanging with us. We're still getting used to incorporating these breaks. Thanks to Nia Campbell. Today a little smoother than yesterday, and it'll continue to improve. She just clocked it. Now, it is time to get to what we were originally going to listen in on before we went to a live press conference. This happened during our stream. I believe it was during the forecast earlier today. This is President Donald Trump. We do not know what he's asked or what he said, but he seemed to answer questions as he emerged from the White House before taking off for Iowa. We believe, based on observation alone, that is what we believe we're seeing. So let's listen what he's asked and what he has to say. Now, we have actually not had one of those in a while. At times, our pre-recorded videos will freeze. We actually have been on a really good streak of those not freezing, but as you saw, this particular one did freeze. So, Nia Campbell is going to reload. Is that reloaded, Nia, already? That was record time, Nia, at reloading a video. Let's go back out to Washington, D.C.
I'd like to see interest rates go down. Everything else is going down. We have the energy and fuel going down. We have gasoline in many states now at $1.99. Groceries are going down. We inherited a mess with very, very high prices, very, very high prices. And I will tell you, we've made a lot of progress. So We have the groceries going down. We have the energy going down. We have gasoline going down at a record clip. And that's what I want to do. We're doing well. Well, I'm looking at that whole situation. I love everybody. I love all of our people. I love his family. And it's a very sad situation. Yeah, please. I have, yeah. I think she's doing a very good job. I think she's doing a very good job. The border is totally secure. You know, you forget. We had a border that I inherited where millions of people were coming through. Now we have a border where no one is coming through. They come into our country only legally. So you have to remember those things. You know, people forget as soon as you accomplish something, it goes into history and nobody ever wants to talk about it. We had a border that caused all of this problem. Biden caused, and the Democrats caused this problem. They allowed tens of millions of people to come in. Many of them were murderers. Many were drug dealers, drug addicts, people from mental institutions. They allowed these people to violate our country, to come into our country. And that's what we're talking about. So if you remember, we had a horrible border, the worst border we've ever had, ever in history. People were flowing through by, we think, 25 million people, not to mention drugs and everything else. And that border is absolutely closed. Prices are coming down. The border is really strong. You know, if you remember, I probably got elected more than anything else on the border. We had a border that was open with 25 million people coming through with an open border policy, which was insane. And that's the policy that caused the problems that we have. With all of that being said, other than, I would say, just to put it accurately, Minnesota, and in particular Minneapolis, because it's not all of Minnesota. Every city that we've gone to has been, like, literally crime has gone down 50, 60, 70, 80. In Washington, it's gone down to practically no crime. You know, Washington is a great example, but you take a look at other cities, Memphis, Tennessee, the crime is down 78%. And you know where else it's down? It's down in Minnesota. It's down in Minneapolis, and it's down very much because of the fact that we're there. So we can't lose sight of the fact that we have to take murderers and drug lords and people from mental institutions that were dumped into our country through open borders of the Democrats, of Biden, and we're doing a great job. The other thing is Tom Homan is there right now. He's with the governor and he's with the mayor. And I hear things are going very nice. How close are we to the deal of the talks in Abu Dhabi that Jared Kushner is need to hell? If your meeting with President Budapest back in play. We're looking at some very good things happening on Ukraine and Russia. Mr. President, very good things are happening on Ukraine and Russia. On the border of Gaza, Mr. President, where do we stand on Gaza, Mr. President? Gaza is going very well. As you know, we got the last hostage down the body of the hostage. And a lot of people thought that was impossible. So we got all of the hostages back, both living and dead. And I can tell you, your parents can really appreciate it. What about the escort operator? That being said, you know, we can't have guns. We can't walk in with guns. We can't walk in with guns. We can't do that. But it's just a very unfortunate situation.
All right, President Trump getting ready to take off there. You don't have the best audio in a situation like that, but we are able to hear from the president in the wake of what's been going on in Minneapolis, Minnesota. He did speak a lot about price changes. He claims that prices are going down in a number of different sectors, but also talked about immigration quite a bit as well. And look, we know when it comes to the immigration enforcement organization, if you will, there have been some changes. Tom Homan, who is the White House border czar, has been sent to Minnesota to oversee immigration operations in Minnesota, which means that the person who was doing that previously, or who was reportedly doing that previously, Greg Bavino, the Customs and Border Protection Commander, will no longer be in Minnesota. Based on reporting that we have seen, he is returning to California to resume his duties as the chief in that sector. So a change there in terms of leadership with immigration enforcement in Minnesota following the incident, the killing that happened this weekend in Minneapolis. And Homan and Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Fry are expected to meet on Tuesday, and President Trump said he had had a phone conversation with Minnesota Governor Tim Walz and that they were on the same wavelength. Now, this is a stark change from what we had seen in Minnesota in the differences and the division between federal officials and local officials, all right? That phone call, this meeting that is scheduled, very different from what we had seen previously, with federal officials disagreeing strongly with local officials in terms of the incidents that had been happening and the immigration enforcement policies in Minneapolis. But President Trump saying that he has been on the phone with Governor Tim Walz, so we will see how that situation continues to change. Now, we want to talk about a representative, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, who is calling for change, specifically Department of Homeland Security Secretary Kristi Noem. Jeffries released a statement on his X account today. Excuse me, let me make sure this is today, January 27th. Yep, this is 1:04 p.m. This is an hour and 36 minutes ago. It says, taxpayer dollars are being weaponized by the Trump administration to kill American citizens, brutalize communities, and violently target law-abiding immigrant families. The country is disgusted by what the Department of Homeland Security has done. Republicans are planning to shut large parts of the government down on Friday so that the DHS killing spree unleashed in Minnesota can continue throughout America. That is immoral. Dramatic changes at the Department of Homeland Security are needed. Federal agents who have broken the law must be criminally prosecuted. The paramilitary tactics must cease and desist. Taxpayer dollars should be used to make life more affordable for everyday Americans, not kill them in cold blood. The violence unleashed on the American people by the Department of Homeland Security must end forthwith. Kristi Noem should be fired immediately, or we will commence impeachment proceedings in the House of Representatives. We can do this the easy way or the hard way. Again, that is House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries with that statement earlier today. Also earlier today, reporting out of Houston of a NASA research aircraft that made a gear-up landing at Ellington Airport late this morning after experiencing a mechanical issue. This is according to NASA. We're going to work to get video of that for you right now. There you can see the video from the scene of where that landing happened. That's the aircraft down on the runway. The pilot would climb out of the cockpit with assistance from emergency responders. You do see the emergency responders driving around there in the area of that plane landing. And according to a statement from Houston Airports, the incident happened around 11:30 a.m. Let's see, what do we know? NASA says a mechanical issue resulted in a gear-up landing involving one of its WB-57 aircraft. Video, which is not the video that we have here. Other video shows the aircraft sliding along the runway before coming to a stop. Air 11 video shows emergency crews responding to the scene. Houston Airport's officials say first responders with military subcontractors handled the response. The runway was closed while crews worked to remove the aircraft. So there you see the NASA logo on the tail of that plane, that spacecraft, that aircraft having to make an emergency landing and doing so successfully, as you can see based on this video and based on some of the reporting that we've seen, something that we wanted to keep everybody updating on. We are not far from a NASA and SpaceX aircraft landing successfully after evacuating the International Space Station due to a medical emergency with one of the astronauts. We are actually just a week, maybe 2 weeks removed from that particular situation. So NASA has been in the news for us here on Live Impact over the last couple of weeks. Now we're closing in on, we got about 17 minutes left in the show. Now there's a couple of different things that we can go ahead and and spend our time with here. And Naya, I think maybe we should talk about the judge in Indiana. A judge in Indiana and his wife were shot in their own home last Sunday, so 2 Sundays ago, Sunday, January 18th. Stephen and Kimberly Meyer shot and injured at their home. 5 people have now been charged, including a man who was about to go to trial in a case overseen by Judge Meyer. He was going to trial for a series of violent felonies, and there was a press conference held earlier today about this particular incident. Let's listen in to the city of Lafayette regarding the incident we just described.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I do want to note, thank you for the kind words of support, that the mayor was engaged in this from the very beginning. At briefings, all the briefings that we had, even into the night, staying late for when we carried out our arrest plan. So thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your support. We live in a place where we have great leadership with our city council and with our entire community. So again, it starts at the top. Good morning, everybody. My name is Scott Galloway, Galloway. I'm the police chief for Lafayette Police Department. And I want to, just like the mayor said, I want to welcome members of the media who traveled here from Indianapolis or wherever, and also our local media members. Thank you for being here. This is an important thing that we're here to discuss. And I want to start by saying, kind of like the mayor mentioned, we are proud of our city, and I'm deeply proud of the men and women of the Lafayette Police Department. They stand dedicated at keeping this community safe every single day. The arrests made in this case are a result of the combined effort involving multiple local, state, and federal agencies. Across the board, this was a lion-hearted effort. This investigation never stopped. The response from law enforcement was tenacious, focused, and unrelenting. The personnel of the Lafayette Police Department, utilizing every skill, resource, and technical advantage at their disposal, worked with sheer will to develop probable cause necessary to remove these 5 people from our streets. In doing so, they secured the very justice to which Judge Meyer has dedicated his entire life. This was a true partnership alongside the Indiana State Police, the FBI, and the vital support of our Tippecanoe County Sheriff's Department, West Lafayette Police Department, and Purdue University Police Department. Thank you for assisting us and giving us resources that we needed to get these violent criminals off the street. We must remember why we are here today. For Judge Meyer and his wife, this is personal. They are not just public officials. They are pillars of this community who have dedicated decades of their life to public service. They are kind, generous people who embody the values of Lafayette. While we are heartened that Judge Meyer and his wife are on the road to recovery, we recognize that this attack was more than an assault on 2 citizens. To me and every law enforcement leader on the stage and the people they serve, this was an assault on the rule of law itself. By targeting members of the judiciary, these individuals didn't just attack a person, they attempted to strike the very foundation of our justice system and the safety of our entire community. I want to extend a sincere thanks to Prosecutor Harrington, as attorneys, and as investigators in his major crimes unit. They worked alongside us 24 hours a day, drafting warrants, subpoenas, providing critical investigative insights, and meticulously constructing a comprehensive probable cause affidavit that brought us to this point. We do now have a little bit of a video to show you, and I can kind of narrate through this. This is to provide insight of the scale of this operation. We're going to provide footage regarding the apprehension of the suspects, Raylan Ferguson, Thomas Moss, and Blake Smith. It's critical to recognize these arrests were synchronized in a single operation, coordinated across multiple agencies and jurisdictions that all occurred simultaneously. So we can show this, and I can kind of narrate a little bit as we go through. Get this started. We'll have this available. So this first one is Raylan Ferguson, who was arrested in Brookston on a traffic stop conducted by the Indiana State Police, our Street Crimes Unit, and FBI. You see the 2 state troopers getting out. That's Raylan Ferguson there. They've detained him. The body cam footage you see is of our street crimes officers, who then take him into custody in the back of a squad car and start the booking process. Again, it's short. They went off very well. Thomas Moss, you can see he is from the Tippecanoe County area. This is his house.
Step to your left. Now walk backwards slowly. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going. Hands up. Keep going. Keep going. Keep going.
And then Blake Smith was arrested in Dayton, Indiana. And again, you can see who was involved in that. These are all coordinated efforts. And that's Blake Smith being apprehended and walked to the police car. No one was injured during any of these. Again, that goes to the testament of the planning and execution of all the SWAT teams, of the members of our local community, FBI, and state police. Also arrested at this same time was Donata Greer, and we thank the Lexington, Kentucky Police Department and the FBI in Lexington that assisted with that. Amanda Millsap was arrested here at Lafayette Police Headquarters building. In closing, for my comments, I want to again thank the men and women of the Lafayette Police Department for their tireless dedication, as well as community partners who stepped forward with case facts and evidence. Their cooperation was vital. And at this time, I want to turn it over to Tippecanoe County Prosecutor Patrick Harrington.
Thank you, Chief. I also like to thank some other law enforcement agencies for their help. As many of us know in our community, when this first happened, we did not know the scope of this or who else may be targeted. The Audubon Town Marshal, Benton County Sheriff's Department, Battleground Marshals, Dayton Town Marshals, Clinton County Sheriff. We thank the Tippecanoe County Sheriff's Department. This is an overwhelming task of logistics for the sheriff to have to coordinate his staff with all these different agencies. I thank personally the West Lafayette Police Department for what they've done, and also the Purdue University Police Department. The resources that our office uses, as the chief just said, is we have a major crime unit. It involves 3 prosecuting attorneys, an investigator, and our high-tech crime unit. We were called on this case in real time, within the first probably 30 minutes. We've been with them almost nonstop since then. The chief outlined what we've been doing. What you see here in our community is a collaborative effort that we work together, different agencies, to solve crime, to make our community one of the safest in the United States. You may have questions about the process going forward. You should have been aware of the Indiana Supreme Court appointing the Cass County judge over this case. We do not know yet, and it may have been set while I've been here, any initial hearing dates or their locations. But that process will move forward, and they will have their initial hearings. That's all I have for you. Once again, thank you, law enforcement, for helping and assisting all of us in this. I'd like to introduce Lieutenant Colonel Al Williamson of the Indiana State Police Investigative Division.
Good morning. As we all know, this was a severe attack on our judicial system. This wasn't just going after a man and woman in their house. They went after him for a reason. He was targeted. When this happens, this occurred, we were contacted by Lafayette Police Department. We have a great working relationship with their police department. Our agency's input and work on this case involves the best part was our laboratory, Indianapolis Regional Lab. Over the weekend, 3 of our analysts came in on their own time, off, and they weren't supposed to be working on evidence for this case. It involved our SWAT, all of our high-profile technical units came out, our undercover people came out, and as you saw in the video, the road troopers assisted as well. We can't thank Lafayette, FBI, Sheriff's Department, everybody we've worked with on this case. We're assisting Lafayette. We're in an assist role. They're an excellent department. They did a great job. All we can hope for is a positive resolution, so show the message that We will not tolerate this. This will not be taken anywhere in the state of Indiana or anywhere in the country when you start attacking the judicial system that we uphold today. So thank you. I'd like to introduce Special Agent in Charge, Tim O'Malley, FBI.
Hey, good morning, everybody. My name is Tim O'Malley. I'm the Special Agent in charge of the FBI for state of Indiana. Over a week ago now, there was an attack against, a senseless targeted attack against a member of the judiciary. The FBI and the Department of Justice stand with this community, and our thoughts and prayers are with you as they continue to recover from this act. Violence or threats of violence against the judiciary or any public service is unacceptable. Attacks like this strike at the core of who we are as a civil society and erode the rule of law and will not be tolerated. While the Lafayette PD was the lead for this investigation, I want to tell you that the FBI was also involved. We brought to bear resources in the area of technical assets, our evidence response team, our crime scene investigators. Our surveillance teams were also involved. And of course, we helped coordinate some of the activity that crossed over state lines, both up north into Michigan and down south into Louisville, into Kentucky. Above all, I just want to say that these arrests represent what law enforcement is like here in the state of Indiana. It's about collaboration on all levels, on the local, state, and federal levels. And this was a great example of what we can do when we work together. I just want to close by saying one last thing. For those of you who don't understand or don't appreciate, the FBI is here in this community. We work tirelessly every day to investigate violent crime and crimes like this. And I just want people to know that they can always call the FBI. We have a phone number that's so easy to remember, 1-800-CALL-FBI, and we appreciate it when people call us with any types of tips, whether it be in a case like this or something else that might seem suspicious or out of the ordinary. So with that, thank you very much for being here today.
Thank you. We appreciate the public's interest in this case and the media's role in sharing accurate information. At the same time, this remains an active criminal prosecution, and we are mindful of our obligation to protect the integrity of that process. At this time, the Lafayette Police Department will not be answering additional questions regarding the details of this case. Any further inquiries regarding court filings, charging documents, or case scheduling should be directed to the Tippecanoe County Clerk's Office, which maintains the official court record. We appreciate your understanding and your professionalism. Thank you for attending this briefing.
All right, so obviously a unique press conference in that not only are they talking about a tragedy that happened to one particular family, but due to the nature of Stephen Meyer's job, it was labeled as an attack on the justice system. Of the 5 people charged, one of whom was a man about to go to trial in a case overseen by Judge Stephen Meyer. And Judge Stephen Meyer and his wife, Kimberly Meyer, shot and injured at their home on Sunday, January 18th. So a unique situation playing out in Indiana, and one that we will keep our eyes on. Pardon me scooching my chair out there. I know you may have heard a little sort of a sharp sound there. I did not mean to end our stream by hurting the eardrums, but we still have 3 minutes left. Now, we've talked about how bitterly cold it is outside. I mean, we're talking record-breaking cold, but you wouldn't know it based on our tower cam viewpoint off of the Jordan Bridge. A splendid day as this camera turns its eyes on the city of Norfolk, and just a beautiful skyline. It almost looks like the colors are saturated with how much the water pops in this particular image. The clarity of that skyline. You see Waterside over there, and downtown Norfolk just jumping out of the ground up into clear skies with a beautiful sort of the aquatic, the maritime foreground, if you will. And then, of course, you've got those classic cranes in the foreground as well. We really, really like this image. We wanted to pop it up there. We know it's cold out. We know it's kind of the dog days of winter right now, late January into February, but a beautiful day out in some respects as well. It is sunny. The skies are clear after a very, very difficult weekend of precipitation and winter storm and rain and ice. It is nice to at least try to enjoy and have some gratitude for the clear skies as you see a bird kind of fly across to end our stream here. We can't end the stream without getting a last word from Nia Campbell. Nia, the last 3 times that I have asked you for a last word, the answer has been no last words. I need a last word from Nia Campbell on today's stream.
Goodbye, everyone.
You know what? That counts. That's all we can ask for. Goodbye, everyone. Thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you right back here, same time, same place, tomorrow afternoon.